Hey guys, it's Dasha here. Now, I always get asked how I'm able to remember so many words in different languages. People just assume I'm superhuman or genetically gifted with great memory, but that's not really the case. Let's just say that I can barely remember what I had for dinner yesterday or where I left my house keys. And so in this video, I'll give you 8 easy ways to memorize new words in literally any language you're learning. So let's dive right in. I've seen a lot of people make the same mistake when learning new vocabulary. They read a text, translate every single word they don't know, and put them into a notebook. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? We've all pretty much done this at school when learning a foreign language. But this is not the optimal way to remember new words. And the reason is quite simple. When you list random words with their corresponding translation, you're not giving them any context. This makes them very difficult to recall. You also won't necessarily be able to use the new words correctly because the same word could mean different things in different contexts. And so the most important thing to do when learning new words is to embed them into context. You can do this in many ways. For one, you should look up the various meanings of the word in different contexts and then form sentences. You can do this on a paper or in your head, it doesn't really matter. Take the English verb engage as an example. It could mean to involve someone in a conversation, and you can say, I try not to engage in conversation with Anne because she's kind of weird. Or it could mean to enter into combat, so to engage in combat. And it's also an adjective that means to agree to marry someone, as in Darren got engaged. Or it could mean to be busy. Without any context, learning a bunch of definitions of a word is pointless. But if you give words context, then you'll be able to associate those words with specific situations. You could even take it a step further and learn short phrases to strengthen your memory. Secondly, if you like using flashcards, you can make your own or download Quizlet or Cram. There's a ton of other apps out there, just take your pick. You're better off spending a few minutes a day learning new vocabulary than scrolling aimlessly through TikTok. If you're really struggling to memorize new words, especially long ones, you could use mnemonics. Mnemonics are a memorization technique that you can use for anything from learning a language to history. And typically a mnemonic would be a strange story or image that helps you remember a word and its meaning. For example, if you were trying to remember the German word Überraschung, which means surprise and is feminine, you might picture a woman getting into an Uber who's scratching her arm because she has a rash. And she says the word ung. Okay, I couldn't think of a way to remember ung, but you get the idea. And since it's a woman, you'll remember that the word Überraschung is female. You see, the stranger and more absurd the image, the more likely it's going to stick in your brain. In one of my videos called How to Start Thinking in English, I talk about how immersing yourself in a language will help you do just that. Think in English. The same goes for learning new vocabulary. Reading in a foreign language is great, and listening to it is also great. But listening and reading at the same time is even better. I only learned this when I was studying for the DELF and started watching movies in French with French subtitles. I always used to think that I was so cool watching foreign movies without any subtitles. But in reality, I was missing out on learning a lot of words and expressions. By doing that, you're giving words context and you're listening to them being used in a natural conversation. Not only that, but our memory is enhanced when we stimulate as many of our senses as we can. So when you're watching, listening, and reading, you're essentially increasing your chances of remembering new words. Pause for a second here and think about the following. What happens if you learn to do a particular task and then you do the same task over and over again? You get bored for one, and also you stop learning something new. Well, the same goes for learning languages. Listening to podcasts and watching movies in different languages while reading will undoubtedly do wonders. But as with any repetitive task, it might somewhat hinder your learning capabilities because you're not giving your brain a new challenge. You're just making it do something that it's used to doing. Not saying that repetition is bad, we're actually going to talk about it in a minute, but changing up how you learn will definitely help you learn new words. So you can combine listening to podcasts and reading the transcript at the same time, or listening to podcasts without reading the transcript, watching, say, English movies with English subtitles and then subtitles in your native language, or watch movies without any subtitles, and so on. That way, your brain and your memory are always stimulated with new tasks, thereby helping you expand your vocabulary. But yeah, repetition is a key to successfully memorizing new words. Imagine you're exposed to a piece of information. The more time that goes by, the more you forget that piece of information. This is called the forgetting curve. But if you remind yourself of that piece of information throughout a period of time, you'll remember it. One way of reminding ourselves of, for example, a foreign word is called spaced repetition. It's a technique where you repeat information that you don't know that well more frequently than you do the information that you know very well. So say that you know the Italian word amore very well. You can recall it within a split of a second, but you're struggling to remember the word inquinamento. The spaced repetition technique says that you should recall the word inquinamento very often, and don't worry much about recalling the word amore, because it's already embedded in your long-term memory. Bottom line, when learning new vocabulary, make sure to prioritize repeating the words you're struggling to remember daily, and not the ones you already know very well. And if you're bored of constantly writing down words, you can use an app like Memorise, which is a spaced repetition flashcard system designed specifically for learning languages. I had a go at using it, and it's actually pretty cool. I highly recommend it. A link to it will be in the description box below. Next up, get into the habit of learning commonly used unknown words. I'm actually going to make a video about the most commonly used words in English, so make sure to subscribe and enable the notification bell to not miss it. The English language alone has thousands and thousands of words, but you don't need to know all of them to master the language. In fact, you only need to know a tiny percentage of the words to understand English. The rest you'll understand from context. According to ef.com, you only need to know about 2,000 to 3,000 words to understand 90% of everyday English conversations, which is great because most of these words are prepositions, articles, and basic words like box, delivery, or annoyed. You need to work smarter, not harder. There's no point in learning useless words like discombobulated. Be strategic about which words you learn. Your first step is to determine why you're learning a language. Is it to study a STEM subject at university? Is it for work? And if it's for work, what field of work? If you're a lawyer, then you need to be very proficient in a language and know the industry-specific words and jargon. Once you know your why, you'll have a better understanding on what vocabulary you need to learn and concentrate on. And only learn those words that are frequently used as opposed to those that are not. Another tip is to link a new word to an existing network of words that you already learned. Think of your brain as having different compartments for categories of words. When you learn a new word, put it into that compartment of associated words. When trying to recall a word, you'll be able to access it in that compartment. My last and final tip is to always write down words. I know I said that you can make example sentences in your head. That's fine, but writing down words will enhance your episodic memory. Episodic memory is basically your ability to recall and mentally re-experience certain episodes from your past. This is contrasted with semantic memory, which is just a recollection of very generic and context-free knowledge. Personally, this is how I try to remember information in general, and not just for foreign languages. When I did the legal practice course, I virtually remembered everything we talked about in our seminars because I was so alert and aware of my surroundings that I was able to associate different legal concepts with people's faces, where I was sitting in a classroom, where I wrote down a note, and all that kind of stuff. So another habit you can add to your daily routine is to keep a notebook and write down new words. Then go through the list a few times a week by repeating the words you're struggling to remember, and tick off the words that you're certain are embedded in your memory. And that's all I have for you today. I hope you can put these tips into use and that you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.